Nicolás Maduro is targeting Guyana's oil, and the result is a border dispute. And after the USA, Great Britain is now also joining the Commonwealth partner and sending the Royal Navy. It is a British demonstration of power. In the border dispute between Venezuela and Guyana, Great Britain is on the side of the oil-rich jungle state. The British Ministry of Defence announced on Sunday that it would station the Royal Navy patrol ship HMS Trent off Guyana this month. It will visit the regional ally and Commonwealth partner. And 2 weeks ago, the USA announced a military exercise with Guyana. The dispute between Venezuela and Guyana concerns two regions. A 160,000 square kilometers sparsely populated border area around the Essequibo River, consisting largely of jungle, and an area of the coast where major oil and natural gas discoveries have been made. Both countries claim the regions for themselves. The border was established in 1899 when Guyana was still part of the British Empire. The US company ExxonMobil has carried out exploratory drilling in Guyana. And the dispute intensified at the beginning of December when, according to the government, the people of Venezuela voted in a referendum to annex 2/3 of Guyana. At least 10.5 million of the 20 million eligible voters had approved the plan, as the chairman of the electoral authority said at the time. As a result, Guyana and the USA cancelled joint military exercises. "We absolutely stand by our unwavering support for Guyana's sovereignty," said John Kirby, US government spokesman for national security. His government supports a peaceful solution to the border dispute. Brazil, among others, had previously expressed concern about tensions in the region. The International Court of Justice had previously banned Venezuela from annexing Guyanese territory. In the spring, the ICJ declared itself responsible for the dispute, but did not expect a ruling for years. After the referendum, Guyana and Venezuela agreed not to use force and not to increase tensions in the dispute. Amid the border dispute between Venezuela and Guyana over the oil-rich Essequibo region, Great Britain has announced the dispatch of a warship and thereby aroused the anger of the government in Caracas. The British Ministry of Defence said HMS Trent would visit regional ally and Commonwealth partner Guyana in December, and it is part of a patrol mission by the warship in the Atlantic. According to media reports, the HMS Trent is currently in Barbados and will then head to the coast of the former British colony of Guyana. According to the British broadcaster BBC, maneuvers with other countries are planned there. And the warship, which is normally stationed in the Mediterranean, was sent to the Caribbean at the beginning of December to combat drug smuggling. Venezuela's Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez described the ship's deployment to Guyana as a provocation. Such provocations would endanger the peace and stability of the region, as the minister wrote, and on those threats of violence as he sees. Tensions had previously increased over the Essequibo area in Guyana, as I said, which had been claimed by Venezuela for more than a century. At the beginning of December, the participants in the non-binding referendum in Venezuela voted by a large majority in favor of the South American country's claim to Essequibo, according to government information. And shortly afterwards, Maduro called for the area to be declared a Venezuelan province by law and for oil production licenses to be issued. Around 125,000 of the 800,000 residents of the former British and Dutch colony of Guyana live in Essequibo. Caracas' desires increased after the oil company ExxonMobil discovered an oil deposit in the area in 2015, and in October, another significant oil discovery was made in the region, increasing Guyana's reserves to more than those of oil-rich Kuwait or the United Arab Emirates. In mid-December, Presidents Maduro and Ali agreed to refrain from violence at a meeting in the island state of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but that doesn't change the fact that Venezuela continues to claim the area. I mentioned earlier that Guyana was once, for example, a British colony. The British colonization of Guyana, formerly known as British Guyana, spanned over 2 centuries, from the early 18th century to 1966 when the country gained independence. The region's rich resources, particularly its fertile soil and abundance of timber, attracted European powers, leading to a complex and often tumultuous history. The first European to set foot in Guyana was Sir Walter Raleigh, an English explorer who sailed up the Orinoco River in 1595. However, it was the Dutch who established the first permanent settlements in the 17th century, drawn by the promise of gold and trade. The Dutch West India Company acquired the territories of Berbice, Essequibo, and Demerara, establishing plantations for sugar and other cash crops. The British, eager to secure their own foothold in the region, engaged in a series of conflict with the Dutch. In 1796, British forces invaded and captured Demerara and Essequibo. Despite French intervention, the British maintained control of these colonies until 1814, when they were formally ceded to Britain at the Treaty of Paris, marking the end of Dutch colonial rule in Guyana. Slavery was a central pillar of the Guyanese economy during the colonial period. The majority of the labor force was composed of enslaved Africans who worked on sugar plantations under harsh conditions. The brutalities of slavery led to several uprisings, the most notable being the Demerara Rebellion of 1823. In 1833, the British Parliament abolished slavery throughout the British Empire. This momentous decision brought an end to the institution that had shaped Guyana society for centuries. However, the transition to a free labor system was met with challenges, as many former slaves struggled to find employment and maintain their livelihoods. The post-emancipation period saw a significant influx of immigrants, primarily from India and China. And these immigrants, seeking better opportunities, found employment in the sugar industry, which was gradually recovering from the abolition of slavery. The arrival of these new populations added to the cultural diversity of Guyana, shaping its ethnic composition and social dynamics. The late 19th and early 20th centuries saw Guyana's political landscape evolve. In 1928, universal adult suffrage was introduced, giving all Guyanese the right to vote, and this paved the way for greater political participation and the rise of nationalist movements. The struggle for independence gained momentum in the 1940s and 1950s. The People's Progressive Party, the PPP, led by Cheddi Jagan and Forbes Burnham, emerged as the dominant political force. In 1953, the PPP formed the first elected government in Guyana, but it was overthrown by British intervention, citing fears of communist influence. After a period of constitutional changes and political upheaval, Guyana finally achieved independence on May 26 in 1966, marking the end of British colonial rule. The country embarked on a new chapter as a sovereign nation, facing the challenges and opportunities of self-governance. And if you want to know more, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.